There we go. All right. Welcome everyone at home. Welcome everyone here this evening. So good to see you all. So this evening I have a little talk prepared. There was a quote from Adyashanti, who's a teacher. He's a non-denominational, um, non-dual. That's the classification of Buddhism. It's a non-dual religion. It doesn't identify any separation between us and God or us and the universe, that everything is connected. Um, Two sides of the same coin, if you will. And he had a quote about obsessive thinking, and it's a thing that I think lots of us struggle with, and obsessive thinking as well as thinking that might be self-critical or harsh. And so I'm just going to read the quote and we'll discuss a little and kind of delve into what's underneath all of that obsessive thinking and that self criticalness, because we all experience it. I still experience it, and I continue to be surprised at the places where I find it and when it pops up, and I'm like, well, there it is again. And it's helpful for us to get to know it and be really familiar with it. And if we can, to be friendly with it, because that's what shifts how we feel about it, our relationship with it. We can be fighting it, or we can be aligned with life and noticing. It doesn't mean we're not trying to do better or to be better, but we're trying to do it in a non-violent way, a way that doesn't involve violence towards self, because that actually always winds up translating into harshness toward others. And so, the like Russell Brand was saying in the video, what can we do on a personal level? We can love each other more, but we can also love ourselves more. And it's not the kind of love you think, not like I'll let myself eat cookies all day and skip work. It's more like a gentleness, right? A change in the way that we relate to those parts of ourselves, especially that we don't like. Okay. So let's start out by just getting grounded. Now, we are not designed to move at speeds over 10 miles an hour. Our biology isn't actually designed, hasn't evolved yet. And so it can be a really good thing to give ourselves, we give kids transition time, but we very rarely allow ourselves that as adults. I don't know when exactly we grow out of that or when we think we've grown out of it, but it can be very helpful. And you're just going to notice your only job all throughout anything that's said here or the guided meditation, anything that we do in here, you're always really just seeing if you can adopt an attitude of noticing and being curious. If you're having a reaction to something that is said, or how you're feeling in the present moment, or how you're feeling about other people in the present moment, you're just noticing and seeing if you can be curious about it, not getting too involved in it or too wrapped up in what your response or your reaction seems to be. So, just for the moment, see if you can touch in and just gently notice what your current state is. Right? So for some of you who've been here multiple times, you might feel pretty relaxed. If you haven't been here in a while, you might notice there's a tiny bit of, not quite settled yet. If you've never been here before, might be like, oh, I don't know what the heck's going to happen here tonight. And you just notice where that registers in your body. Often there will be some sort of contraction or constriction or tightness. And you just notice it. You're not trying to change it in any way. And you allow space that might shift. Even while you're noticing it right now, it might shift. And sometimes you can kind of take a brief survey as a way of finding out how settled or how present you are. Just what percentage here and in your body, in the room, do you feel? And usually the first number that pops up for you out of, from 0 to 100%, that's usually the right one. And there's nothing wrong with any number that pops up. You're just noticing. And after you take your survey, see if you can notice the solidness of the ground with your feet. Right? So you can move your feet around, or you can just move your toes around in your shoes, and you're just noticing how solid the ground seems to be. And you can notice what your legs feel like. If you have access to interior sensation, you might notice tingling in feet or legs, or some feeling of vibration or space or restlessness. Okay, and then let your attention start to turn to where you make contact with the chair, feeling the points of pressure between your body and the chair that you're seated in. And you're just noticing what the pressure is like. And you might also feel into a little bit of the solidness of the chair that is also being held up by the ground, just like your feet. And this can be a really good thing to do when you are feeling rushed during your day, or having that sense of things are moving too fast, feeling not quite connected to the ground, not quite here. Just noticing that the ground is not moving, feeling the solidness of the chair. Which you can also do while you notice sirens going by. Noticing there may be an emergency out there, but there's still relative safety right here. Ground is not moving. Yeah. And then go ahead and take another internal survey, just for kicks. No judgment, just information. Checking to see how present, if you want. Notice a percentage that might pop into your head. How present do I feel now in this moment? And then just go ahead and let yourself relax. Release effort. Another reason that exercise is so helpful because it takes us away from mind and into the body. Our thinking can kind of carry us away and make us feel a little ungrounded at times. And coming to the back to the body brings us right here now, right? We can only notice sensation right here, right now. Okay. Probably can't remember specifically sensation 10 minutes ago, right? We can only notice that right this second. Anything anybody noticed or wants to ask or share about that exercise? Okay. So, from this place where perhaps you might feel a little more like you've arrived, a little more here in the room, I'm going to read this quote, and then you guys can see if you can listen from here. I know we tend to have our consciousness centered above the neck and kind of carry it around in our heads. Our bodies transported around. But see if you can listen or receive or notice, even just maybe noticing is a better word. Just notice the words from a lower place in your body. Whoops. Oh, the place I was. Oh, there we go. Okay, so somebody asked a question. There are these people who I'm so grateful for who they go to all of his classes and record stuff and write stuff down. And somebody has I think a Facebook page where they just post quote after quote from his books and teachings. So this one is how to meet obsessive thinking. And the question is, how do you suggest we approach obsessive thoughts that consume us like fire 24 hours a day? Like your initial obsession with the thought that you needed to attain enlightenment. So you must be referring to something from a talk. Does freedom from those thoughts come only when we reach a point of such complete desperation and failure that the mind caves in and one drops through into truth? So the response, he says, let's start at the beginning. Obsessive thinking arises from fear, anxiety, and struggle. These are the drivers of excessive thinking. So, in addition to the meditation practice, you may want to begin to contemplate what you are afraid of, what you are running away from, what you don't want to deal with within yourself or your life. By contemplate, I mean to identify exactly what fears are driving you. What assumptions are they based on? What are you running from? Also, rampant thinking is your mind looking for peace, as if you could just think enough and understand enough, your mind could be at peace. But the mind never thinks its way to a lasting peace. In fact, in the mind's rush to find peace and security, it overlooks the peace that is already present within the presence of awareness. So contemplate what your mind is trying to run away from and what it is looking for, and begin to show your mind that peace is available in the present. Literally, bring your mind's attention to the greater peace of awareness and give your mind something to do in the form of following your breath. Just follow the breath whenever you can during the day, because it will calm your nervous system and give your mind something to do other than obsessively think. Of course, thoughts may come, but anchor them in the breath. Be patient and kind to yourself. Very patient and very kind. And I think that those last two sentences are probably the most important of everything that's written there. Be patient and kind to yourself, very patient and very kind. So I notice, and the reason I'm sharing this, I periodically get together with folks who I'm in training with for somatic experiencing certification. And we just finished another 4-day training. And we had a gathering where we practice. We practice on each other. I'm gonna grab a tissue. And everyone was relating to the fact that as soon as we come off of a training, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, we sort of feel our deficit, like feel what we don't know or how far we have to go, right? Because you learn about something and at a certain level of intensity, but it isn't fully integrated yet. It seems like it takes a few weeks or months for the thing that you learned after you practice it enough. It's one thing to intellectually know it, but then to be able to do it, especially under pressure, right? Right? When it really counts. So when I'm with clients or, with myself in the moment, we were all noticing that there's still, as much as we all know and as far as we've all come, there's still this thing that happens, this harshness with self, right? What I should be, how far along I should be, how well I ought to be doing, right? How much more I ought to be helping people, right? How I could be better. And the important thing, I think, to notice when things feel tough or when things go wrong or go just not as expected, when things don't go according to plan, the most important thing that you could start to do is notice what happens inside. As soon as you realize things are not going the way that you thought. Is there searching for what did I do wrong, right? Or beating self up, right? Why did I do that? Or some sort of constriction, right? Something kind of clamps down and gets rigid inside. Right? It's something really important to pay attention to. And because we have a holiday coming up, you all will have plenty of opportunities to notice something like that happening. Right? Me too. Me too. Right? Yeah. And especially because when we go back to old familiar places, right, it evokes familiar old stuff for us. It's perfectly set up, perfectly designed, right? Teacher, life is teacher. And in those moments, what can we do? What can we do differently? And if we can't do anything differently in those moments, what do we do about that? Right? If we notice the constriction, the rigidity, or the harshness, right? Usually there's some sort of fear that has come in. You might not recognize it as such in the moment, but that's generally what's going on. There's some kind of fear there. And so, how would you behave if you notice a a young child that's afraid, right? What's the automatic impulse? Comfort. Yeah. Yep. Without doubt, without hesitation, right? Just instantaneous, right? Doesn't have to justify it. The kid doesn't have to justify that care, that compassion, right? Doesn't matter, right? So when we turn that back around and notice for ourselves, right, do we respond that way to our own suffering? Does there have to be a right and wrong, a justification? What's the fear? If I comfort myself in moments when I feel like I'm falling down or not performing well, right, or just not good enough somehow, what's the danger? What am I afraid of if I offer comfort to myself? What if I just know, just acknowledge, like, oh, I feel it and I see it, right? It's much easier to think, why doesn't somebody else see this and take care of me? It's so much easier, right? To wish for that, to, to kind of expect it, like it should be that way, right? Someone else should know. But if we can't even do it for ourselves, what the heck? Right? And how strong do you imagine the need for someone else would be to do that, to give that to us, if we first were able to give it to ourselves? Right? How much would be still lacking or missing after we acknowledge our own pain? Most of the time, not a heck of a lot, right? Maybe really big stuff. But in those moments where we're pretty certain that, you know, there's some kind of old stuff getting kicked up there, right? The clue is the size of our this response in here doesn't quite match the what's going on, right? Those are the times when we need the most comfort, the most acknowledgement, the most attention. It's likely that stuff is old, right? We could say, you know, from a kid place, right? So we, in our, the inner critic, or whatever you want to call it, egoic mind, or, you know, the grown up part of us, or the super ego, whatever you want to call it, that has objections to this idea. Anybody want to name or give a voice to what what objections there might be to offering this kind of self-compassion? And you guys have named these things before, but I think it's still good to hear them, right? So we get really familiar with and notice the flaws in those arguments.
If you don't pay attention to it, you won't fix it. If you don't pay attention to the flaw, you won't fix it. So that's
yeah. Yeah. Right. Like this really root level, I don't like that. Right? So I'm not gonna honor that, or even worse, like encourage it. Right? What's the fear there?
That's a couple of layers beyond. I mean, you know, it's, the immediate fear is to be stuck with whatever this thing is.
It'll stay,
Yeah.
right? If we pay attention to it, it'll stay. It'll never go away. Right? And the irony is that what we resist is what persists, not what we honor. It's what we resist. So the more we resist it, the louder it knocks for our attention. It's so the opposite of logic, right? Wouldn't it be great if all the things we didn't like, we could just go, right? And they all just go, oh, okay, bye. Right? But we're human beings. Right? So we get both sides of the coin. We get the elevated, loving, compassionate, spiritual, right, capable of all kinds of greatness and love. And we get all the other stuff too. We get the stuff that's not so nice. Jealousy, sadness, anger, right? We don't get to only choose the positive emotions. And anybody who tries to numb the bad ones, the thing is, they also numb the good ones. There's no such thing as selective numbing. It doesn't matter if you're popping pills or taking the edge off with a glass of wine, or you're running lots of miles. Doesn't matter what your thing is, you can't selectively numb. But we all try. I tried. Yeah, we all try until we realize it's not quite getting it. It's not good enough. And everybody's different, everybody's individual. How tired you have to get of running from the things you don't like about yourself, it's completely a function of how you're put together, right? Some people gotta get a really long ways down the path of trying things and trying to run from their humanness, or have heart attacks or strokes or whatever. You know. And some people figure it out really quick. They're like, oh no, I can see the futility, right? And they wanna like sidestep the right cross cut. I don't want to have to just wear myself out. Some people have to. Some people have to utterly and completely wear themselves out. And other people, as soon as they are able to access or contemplate the idea, like, oh, no problem. Don't have to tell me twice. I'm not going to fight with reality anymore. And we might go back and forth between those two for a little bit. So one thing that people cite as a fear, I think it's pretty close to the one that you were talking about, Jonathan. It's this idea that, like, in general, if we're too kind to ourselves, that it's just going to go off the rails, right? We'll be so totally misbehaving, so out of control, right? Somebody's got to keep us in line, right? Otherwise, bad things could happen, right? And is it true? That's our job, to notice that we might have that hidden belief and to question it. Is that really true? If I relax the rigidity around my eating or my exercise or whatever it is, whatever I don't like, Is it true that it will just become entirely out of control and end in disaster? You know, we should really question that. Is it true?
I think sometimes I've gotten better at the self-compassion piece when it's just me beating up on myself. But I keep thinking about the holidays coming, and when everything that you think about yourself or everything that you beat yourself up with is now being verbalized and thrown at you verbally, not even in a mean way, but just said and
Yeah.
verbalized,
Mm-hmm.
then it gets harder for me to be self compassionate because I start to think, okay, 10 people are saying my worst fears are probably true. So I think I'm the one that's missing something here. I better not be compassionate right now. I better stop brainwashing myself and come to reality. If 10 other people are saying this,
Mm-hmm.
I should step back and think instead of, I don't know.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I mean, we can love our family, we can love people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good idea for us to hang out with them a lot. You know, and if when we're by ourselves, if we have a sense that the critical voices aren't accurate or helpful, those are two good tests. Is it accurate? Is it true? Is it helpful? Right? That can be the test for any thought that we have. Then, chances are the voices in our head. I mean, this is how it is. This is a fact of life. We internalize the stuff that we hear when we're growing up, and they become inner critic. They're part of that, the voices in our head that are trying to keep us in line, telling us we got to shape up. Right? And if by ourselves we can recognize, oh, the source of those isn't actually me. I don't actually fully believe everything that those voices say. Then there's an opportunity there. Then we can start to notice, oh, place or source those voices outside of us and feel ourselves as separate, right? Our body and our voice and our energy as separate from that voice and that energy, wherever it comes from, right? And it can be societal voices, it can be family voices, it can be ex's voices. Doesn't matter where it comes from. If it's something we've internalized, and when we're by ourselves, we feel pretty certain that not not true and not helpful, and that's a pretty good clue that we need to be careful when we hang out with people that are gonna mimic the critics in our head, right? And help ourselves, protect ourselves, not allow ourselves to take that all in. It doesn't matter how many people say the sky is falling, it doesn't make it true, right? There's been lots of groups of people that didn't quite have, have a handle on the truth. A bunch of people drank some Kool-Aid and strapped on their tennis shoes and thought they were going to get on a comet. If you're in a room with all them and they say it's true, and right, does that mean it's true?
It's just hard not to want to prove that to everybody. If you're feeling something different, but nobody else sees it, it just
Right.
something about, and I know I've said it before, but I don't know. Like I'll get more validation if everyone else believes it or sees it or can convince them
Right.
that I'm this way or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Just I don't
It
know how to.
it might feel that way because we are biologically set up to connect right? So we'll do whatever we need to do. That's our survival programming. And unfortunately, it doesn't go away. I mean, we feel that urge to connect, to belong for pretty much as long as we're alive. But as we become adults, we can recognize, oh, I actually can survive without them. My survival doesn't depend on them approving of or liking me or agreeing with me anymore. And it's if we get caught up in thinking that that's the case, then we're stuck. That's a distraction. Always, 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 we want to come back and notice when we have extreme discomfort, it doesn't mean look over there or blame, right? No matter how crazy they are, right? It means look here, there's something to see. Emotion is information. It's letting us know something. Maybe it's letting us know, hey, there's a boundary that needs to be tended here. Somebody is overstepping, right? But you don't know unless you look. You got to check it out. You got to ask any thought that you have or anything that anybody says to you that feels upsetting, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Right? If it doesn't pass the test, no way can you put 100% stock in it. No way. It's suspect. If it doesn't meet the test, it is suspect. Always. Right? There's no exception to that. It has to meet the test. Yeah.
If somebody says something about you and you know it's not true, but you have a need to prove it to them it's not, doesn't it show once you're completely convinced you know yourself that it's not true? No matter what they say, you've you listen to yourself, so it's not true, so it's gonna show. Don't you think? It would just show in your confidence, in your
Well, it often does. But the bigger point is that when we know, then the need for anyone else to validate that kind of falls away. Right? It doesn't have the power anymore. If we know, it doesn't matter anymore what anybody else thinks. They're allowed to think whatever they want.
And I want to be there. Like I feel like that does make sense. Like I'm in the in between where I think I know, but
Right.
maybe not. Maybe they're
Yeah.
right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're right. That's what it brings up is the maybe I've got this all wrong. Maybe they're right and I'm wrong.
it's just
Yeah.
a process, right? Her
Yeah.
first thing is she's now questioning it. And then
Yeah. Yep. The first step is questioning and apply the test.
But I do appreciate the way that you explain that whole other piece because I've always heard, don't blame everyone else, but never really had that problem of saying it's your fault. I immediately turn it back on myself and say, where did I screw up? Why did I cause all this?
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame them, but what you just said is not turn it back on yourself, but maybe
No,
figure
just
out
look.
what you can do, like the boundary thing. Do you have other examples of like what it could be? Like if it maybe it's a boundary issue, maybe it's because that feels more kind.
It's yes, it is. And I can't give you I can't give you the specific rule that you're looking for. All I can tell you is that it's in here, and if you look here instead of out there, you'll discover the truth. Okay? That's how it works. And the looking requires that self compassion, that kindness, a gentleness with ourselves, like, oh, I'm a human being, so there is no other option except that I am going to repeatedly mess up, make mistakes, misunderstand. Right? That's the thing we want to get okay with. If
Yeah,
there
I'm
we go.
gonna drive myself. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go when I want.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's
how
like,
long it was
don't
off.
say anything hurtful. It's what's
What's not.
Yes, exactly.
As long as it's a free class, people
So
are
you're
just going to
going
have to
on
put up with
Wednesday,
the
Sunday?
idiosyncrasies.
My parents are doing Thanksgiving, and my relatives from Cincinnati are coming up. The one with my godson, the little cutie pie.
Good.
So
Now, does Brooks' family join you, or do they do their own thing?
no, they do their own thing, but I usually like stop over there at some point.
How's the temperature in here for meditation?
It's gotta be fun.
Yeah.
Are you driving up with Nathan or?
No, he has to work on Friday, so he's gonna have to just drive back and forth.
Okay, so your only job
Yeah.
during the entire meditation is just to notice.
Okay.
And prior to that,
I don't even know
your
how
first
you
job
drive.
is to find the most comfortable chair that you can here. So if that one's not comfortable enough, then try some others. Okay. And in general, the best position to meditate is basically
So like,
feet flat on the floor and then just hands in a comfortable position that's not going to pitch your shoulders forward or make your back uncomfortable. You can start eyes open or eyes closed. Lots of times people find it easier to start out eyes closed,
Yeah.
but for other people who are very
I
high
don't know. I
anxiety
like tell myself
um,
to drop the story.
like hypervigilant, they might want to keep their eyes open. And in that case, you choose a focal point, like a couple feet out in front of you on the floor, or the candle, or any object in the room can work.
Like a newcomer. Like I had never been
If
there
at any point during
before.
meditation you feel really uncomfortable, the rough guide I give people is on a scale of 0 to 10, if it's a 5 or greater, then you want to just give yourself a little break. So wiggle your toes, open your eyes for a bit, take a deep breath.
This will help me with my family, by the way.
Shift yourself. Excuse me, move around a little bit. You can even like get up and leave the room. Come back quietly if you want to.
What would my ideal?
That's just
What would be
a way of being self-compassionate, taking care of yourselves. Not everybody can just right out of the box just sit, even with a guide, because lots of times if we get quiet, our stuff starts to surface,
to that
right?
and whatever.
And
Wow.
so we want to be as kind
Because I
as
could do it,
possible
it
to
might not
ourselves
impact you.
and
I could do it
just
for an hour.
work with
But then
what's
when I
there.
spend 5 hours.
So
it just
if that's the
wears
case,
down.
if it's too uncomfortable to sit,
Yeah.
maybe a
Or,
different
like, if
kind
you
of
have time,
meditation.
you can,
Maybe it's
maybe
going to be
take a break.
mindfully
Like,
doing the
Take a
dishes
walk
or walking
outside
meditation.
or
So
sit in the bathroom.
you can always just let me know how it went, either
Yeah, to
after
recenter
class. You
and-
can email me or call me,
Yeah, I
or
need it.
catch me at the end of class, and if I can always
Take your
answer
dog with you.
questions
Go
or
and
offer
walk your dog.
I'm
suggestions.
not allowed to take my dog.
And then
Just
beyond that,
he's a 5-pound dog.
your
He's a
only
really
job
big cat that's
is
in my house.
to just
Sit
notice
in your
during the
vehicle
entire
and
guided
just-
meditation,
And you know what?
as much as you can
Because you're giving
remember.
me ideas.
All
Yeah.
you're doing is
Instead of
noticing,
what I
and
usually
you
do.
mind might wander and you might
I'll say,
forget, but you
"Oh,
just
I'm
come
gonna
back
take
to
a break
that.
'cause that's good
So
for me," but what I do
it's
on my
low
break,
pressure.
it's costing me
There's
a bitch about
no
everything.
There's
Which
no
is like giving me
specific
energy,
thing that's
which
supposed to
I always thought was
happen.
good. I'm like,
You're
oh,
just
thank you.
going to
You
see
know,
what your experience is
But
like.
I'm giving
But
energy
typically,
to that
if you follow the guides and it doesn't feel too difficult to follow along, then you'll experience some moments
I
of
do. I
silence
silence
or that feel a little bit less space or
all
less
day.
less
I don't.
tense in the body.
That's
that
not
kind
real.
of thing.
Because I can't.
I,
I need to change the words. Maybe I'll do that. Like Twitter.
All right.
Yeah.
Any lights you want to adjust?
Want this door open?
Hey, well, do you mind closing it, or at least not latch it, but so people can get out if they need to? Perfect. Okay. So it's on. Thank you. I did not mute it. Okay. Thank you, Sue. All right. So you're just getting comfy in your chairs now. And a reminder that your only job during the entire meditation is to notice. You're just noticing. So as we usually do, we'll start with the body scan, and you're gently turning your attention. Notice how you do it. Can you gently, rather than forcing it there, allow your attention to rise to meet the top of your head and begin noticing the top of your head. And you're just noticing any sensations, coolness or warmth, tingling, tension, or perhaps nothing at all. But whatever you notice there. And as you feel ready, gently letting your attention move down, drift down to notice your face. And you might make note of those areas that carry tension, like around the eyes or the jaw. You could imagine letting your eyes sink back into their sockets, or letting your tongue go completely limp in the bottom of your mouth as a way of relaxing some of that tension. And just notice what happens after you do that. And then as you feel ready, letting your attention turn to noticing the sides of your head. And you might find tension there, or discomfort, or nothing at all. And you could imagine allowing your ears to drop slightly as a way of releasing some of that tension. And after you imagine that, just notice what happens. And then gently, when you're ready, leaving any sensations that were there in the sides of your head, turn your attention to the back of your head, the back of your neck. Just noticing whatever seems to be there. And if you find any tension or discomfort, you could make a request. Just request some relaxation in that area. And then open or wait and observe what happens after you make the request. You're just noticing. And then again, preparing to gently shift your attention. Let it begin to notice your shoulders. Sliding down from where your shoulders meet your neck. Letting attention notice the tops of your shoulders. And then the shoulder joints. Upper arms. Noticing elbow joints. Noticing forearms. And letting your attention continue to slide across your hands. Noticing all the way to the tips of your fingers. And then for a moment, notice left arm from neck to fingertips. And then right arm from neck to fingertips. And then see if you can notice both arms simultaneous. And whatever you observe, you're just trying to be friendly with it. It might be tingling or tiredness, tension, coolness or warmth, some other sort of vibration, anything at all. Just noticing, not trying to change it. And then preparing to gently shift your attention to notice the core of your body. And you're just going to begin to scan, starting at your neck, or throat. Let your attention slide down, noticing your chest, the heart area, and then diaphragm, or that space between chest and belly. And then noticing the belly, and all the way down into your abdomen. And then scanning the back as well, starting at the top, noticing upper back, area between the shoulder blades, and then sliding down to notice that middle area of your back. And then finally all the way down to your lower back. And noticing where you're seated in the chair. Just taking note for a moment of how the core of your body supports you, is holding you up in this moment. And if you notice any areas of tension or discomfort in the core of your body, you could imagine breathing in and out of that spot, that place, as though it were another set of lungs. And then as you feel ready, preparing to shift your attention gently again to noticing your legs, starting with where you feel yourself seated in your chair, hips and bottom. Attention gently sliding down, noticing tops of your upper legs and the backs, or the part that is sitting in the chair of your upper legs. And then pausing to notice your knees for a moment, being as friendly as you can with whatever you find. And then having attention slide down shins and calves until you reach your ankles, and notice ankle joints for a moment. Attention sliding down to heels, feeling where they are planted on the floor or in your shoes. And then scanning the length of your feet to the tips of your toes. being as friendly as you can with whatever you find there. You might notice restlessness or achiness, tingling, coolness, warmth. Or your legs might feel neutral, like there's nothing really going on. And you're just noticing. And feel the length of your left leg for a moment. And then feel the entire length of your right leg. And then feel the entire length of both legs. And when you feel like you've got a good sense of your legs this evening, you can prepare to shift your attention again gently. See if you can let your attention rise to gently find the place where you notice breathing happening. Where's the sensation of breathing seem to be coming from? Without trying to change the breath in any way, just noticing. It might be at the nose with air entering cool, exiting warm. Or you might notice the sound of the breathing, or rising and falling of chest or belly as you notice breathing in, breathing out. And then pausing just for a moment to notice the space at the end of the exhale before you begin to draw the next breath. See if you can spot the pause, the space that's there, and just rest there for a moment. And you're just noting, where does breathing seem to be happening most prominently for you? And it might not be the same as last week or yesterday. What does it seem like in this moment? Just noticing. And now, if you like, you can either stay with your breath or you can experiment with widening the space of your awareness to include anything else that's happening in the present moment. There may be sounds inside the room, outside the room, sensations feet on the floor, the chair, your clothes, temperature in the room. Tastes, smells, even thoughts or emotions might be moving through. And you just notice. If you're caught up with or get carried away by thought, as soon as you remember that all you're doing is noticing, then you can come back. Just remember and gently come back. That's part of meditation. It's a normal part of meditation. Mind wandering, that's what minds do. So anything that's happening in the space of the present moment is fine to pay attention to. You can notice thoughts or emotions or restlessness or sleepiness are happening in the present moment. But you don't have to get involved in what they're doing or saying. You can just notice. And as an aid to your noticing, if you want to, you can conduct this experiment. You can introduce this question into your meditation space. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? And there's no answer to the question. Just notice what happens after you ask the question. And really, you're just noticing what it's like to give up effort just for this safe little space, this safe little time that you've designated to try this out. What's the experience of letting go of the one who's trying to get it right, or who's heard about meditation and what it's supposed to be like? You're just noticing what it's like, or what it might be like, to not be in conflict with anything in this moment. No argument with life in this moment. What would the experience of that be? Not forcing, not pushing anything. Just introducing this simple question and noticing what happens. And just asking, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? what would that be like? What would be the experience of that? And you might notice space or feeling of space or silence that opens up because the mind doesn't know how to answer this question. It can't answer this question. The answer is only available in your experience. So you have to check there. And so all you can do is notice. And as we reach the end of this meditation, just take 2 more minutes for yourself to savor silence. To notice the feeling of not being in conflict, of letting go of even the meditator, the one who's trying to meditate well. And perhaps noticing that you didn't have to do anything to arrive at this place. Rather, all you had to do was nothing. And just noticing effortlessness. And remembering that you can ask this question anytime, anywhere, any moment. You can conduct this experiment. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? And as you feel ready, you can start to send some energy into your arms and legs. Some movement, offering gentle movement to fingers and toes. And taking as much time as you need to transition from your meditation space. So nice to be with you all this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
See you on the 14th of this.
Yeah.